The year was 1890. On the south side of Port Huron, you could hear a lot of noise from the steam engines. No, not the locomotives, but the steam shovels. The noise was coming from both sides of the rivers as they dug entrances to the St. Clair Tunnel. The work on the tunnel actually started before 1890, but there were many delays as they tried to figure out the best way to dig this tunnel. This was the first underwater rail tunnel in North America, and it was opened by the St. Clair Tunnel Company in 1891. The company was a subsidiary of the Grand Trunk Railway, which used the new route to connect with the subsidiary Chicago and Grand Trunk Railway, predecessor to the Grand Trunk Western Railroad. Before the tunnel's construction, Grand Trunk was forced to use time-consuming rail ferries to transfer cargo. After the tunnel, they no longer needed these ferries, and after the tunnel, they no longer needed the railway station that was on the north end of town, at least not for its original purpose. The old station fell into disrepair and was used as a yard office when Peerless Cement took over that location. Today we know that station as the Thomas Edison Depot, and has been turned into a museum and has been very nicely restored. As you may have guessed, a new station had to be built that would be on the new route. And here is that station. This is a very rare photograph of the station being built. This station would become known as the Tunnel Station or the Tunnel Depot. The building must have started before the snow flew, and now that the cold and the freezing weather set in, the building was temporarily discontinued. But you can see the walls are up, and it appears on the steps of the station there's some VIPs there inspecting the station. As we zoom back out, we can see the photograph was taken from about the center of 22nd Street. And you can also see the streetcar tracks going down 22nd toward the station, making the curve there onto Railroad Street. And then on the very far edge of the picture, you can see a group of folks standing around. I thought originally that might have been a streetcar, but it's too low for a streetcar, so perhaps some type of a carriage that they're riding in. Speaking of streetcars, here's a photograph of one. They ran from the depot all the way up to the beaches, Huronia Beach, Gratiot Beach, and so forth. Here you can see it says Tunnel Depot and Beaches, and later on it would be just shortened to Depot. I mentioned that the station was on Railroad Street. Of course, there was no Railroad Street before the tunnel station. Looking down from the satellite map, you can see that street flying off to the left is Railroad Street, and it's right across from the Port Huron Engine and Thresher Company that we've been looking at in our last 4 videos. Today there's hardly anything on that street, but at one time this was a gateway to Port Huron. Folks from all over that came on the train would be let off at this station, and there had to be something to greet them other than vacant land. And so a little town was built up there on Railroad Street. The yellow rectangle, of course, is the tunnel station and the subsidiary buildings that went with it. The white rectangle was a hotel. The blue rectangle included 2 hotels, a barber shop, a drugstore, a confectionery store, and 2 restaurants. The orange rectangle was another hotel. I really like this painting here. It captures a couple things. It captures the tunnel depot completed. It also captures the era in which this tunnel depot started out. Although many of us have used this depot, keep in mind the building was built in 1891. I like this painting as well. Not only does it show the tunnel, but it shows the train traffic that's in front of the tunnel, or in the back of the tunnel, depending how you're looking at it. Here's one of the earliest photographs taken of that tunnel after it was built. This is actually a Pescia postcard, and you can see that the passengers look like they were let off on an outside track, and so they had to walk across the other tracks to get to the station, which I think might be a little bit unusual, at least in my mind. We actually have this photograph that the Pesha card used for their postcard. And here it's been cropped so everything is a little bit larger so you can see the passengers better as they're carrying their luggage across the tracks. What I'm going to tell you next was found in a newspaper clipping that described the new depot. And it says this: the new Chicago and Grand Trunk Railway Depot at 24th Street, probably Railroad Street didn't even have a name yet, so they're saying it's 24th Street, is nearly completed and will be thrown open to the public on February 1st, so they must have worked through the winter. In the west end of the building, that would be on the left side looking at this picture, on the west end of the building on the first floor are located two waiting rooms, one for the ladies and one for the gentlemen. These rooms are finished in oak and the fixtures are very elaborate. There's a massive fireplace in each room and the floors are tiled. The dining room is in the center of the building and is very roomy. The lunchroom is to the west of it. Both of these rooms are finished in the same substantial manner as the waiting rooms. In the east end are located the kitchen, pantries, closets, etc., or the accommodations of those employed around the dining room. Over the kitchen are numerous bedrooms for the help. The second story of the new building can only be reached by an outside stairway. This part of the building has been fitted up for offices. Each office is large and has a private office in the rear. The offices will be finished in pine. They will be convenient and pleasant. The entire building is heated with steam and will be lighted with gas, manufactured by the company. Taken all in all, the building is a credit to Port Huron and has few equals in Michigan. This is a Sanborn map that you've been looking at, not a floor plan, but it gives you an idea of the layout of the building. This photograph here was taken years later, I'm guessing maybe around the 1940s, and it appears they've opened it up into one waiting room now. You can see the ticket office over on the right-hand side. You can see the tile floor. Pretty neat photograph. Almost every photograph that you see or postcard that you see of the Tunnel Depot is going to be taken from the track side. Which is all right with me. I like to see the trains. I like to see the tracks. I like that side, but it'd be nice to have a picture or two of the opposite side. And we do have one or two, so we're thankful for that. If someone had never seen the depot before, looking at the postcards, you would think would give you a pretty accurate picture. In this particular postcard, it does give you an accurate picture. This postcard has the coloring about right as far as the color of the depot, as well as this postcard as well. However, in this postcard here, you can see there's something missing. All these people are waiting for the train, but there's no track, so I think the train may never come. And in this postcard here, they must have ran out of the brick color paint because they had a completely different color for the depot, which certainly isn't true to form. It does give you a nice wide-angle view of the station and the tracks. I like this photograph here because you can see the baggage carts in the foreground. This photograph is taken from the loading platform and is looking toward the tunnel. And this one is looking in the opposite direction. And this beautiful young lady is getting off the train. You can see part of the Grand Trunk logo at the top of the picture. I happen to know her. She went on to actually marry a very fine fellow, handsome devil, and he became a Port Huron historian, and they grew old together. They grew so old together that neither one of us can remember where she got on the train at, only where she got off the train. If you haven't guessed by now, that's my wife Nancy. Here's a couple ladies getting on the train, conductor standing at the side, and in this photograph here you can almost hear the conductor saying, "All aboard!" I like this photograph here because you can see the board walks that go over the track, so when passengers came in on the outside track, so they walk across the tracks, they could walk across on these. In the Sanborn map that we looked at earlier, you can see there's a gap between the baggage sheds and the depot. But later on, that gap was filled with the U.S. Immigration Office. And you can see that in this Sanborn map, which is about the 1940s map. And in this photograph here, you can actually see part of that immigration office is butted right up against the depot now. One of the things that you saw around the tunnel depot were these trucks here, the Railway Express. They were green trucks, and they had a red diamond someplace located on them, which was their logo. And we had them all over town. The Railway Express office downtown was on Pine Street, right next to Troy Laundry, on one side of the custom alley. This photo, you can see where it is. In those days, there was no UPS or Federal Express. If you wanted to have something get there fast, you sent it Railway Express. In this photograph here, you can see the baggage sheds there, and you can see the depot further down. But you can see two of the Railway Express trucks right in the front there. The railway cars were designated Railway Express agency cars, and they carried the merchandise. When I was researching this, I was surprised to find out how the company started. The express business flourished in the latter half of the 19th century, and by 1900, there were four principal parcel express companies, all of which included the rapidly advancing railways as one of their means of transport. There was the Adams Express Company, the Southern Express Company, the American Express Company, and Wells Fargo. The private railway express business increased steadily through the end of World War I. During the winter of 1917, the United States suffered a severe coal shortage. On December 26, President Woodrow Wilson commandeered the railroads on behalf of the United States government to move federal troops, their supplies, and coal. The railway lines were consolidated for the war effort. All contracts between express companies and railroads were nullified, and it was decided that all existing express companies be consolidated into a single company to serve the country's needs. The result was a new company called the American Railway Express Agency, which was formed in July 1918. In 1969, after several years of losses, the Railway Express Company was sold to 5 of its corporate officers. By then, its entire business constituted less than 10% of all intercity parcel traffic, and it transported only 10% of its business by rail. In November of 1975, Railway Express terminated operations and filed for bankruptcy. This little tangent on the Railway Express Company that we went off on was brought to you at no extra charge. I'm going to end this video with this wide-angle view looking toward the tunnel. But we're not done with the tunnel station or the businesses that surrounded it. Matter of fact, if you join me in my next video, you'll see much more. So join me then.